Hello, little rats. Welcome back to the Rat Diaries podcast. Hey, welcome back. It is your host, Rachael Weber. It feels so good to be here. Happy Tuesday, February 18th. We made it, baby. We're cruising. In case you were wondering, I feel so much better. I finally am not sick anymore. Thank God. Thank God to the man up top. But no, it's been a journey. I feel like I say this every single time I get on here. I'm like, oh, it's been such a journey. Like, my life is so hard. Ooh, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see a huge pile of my clothing in the background. That is my laundry. I'm not a slob. I like to do my laundry and fold things while I'm watching a program. And so I'm in my family room right now, and you can just like see that in the back. I just like to spread out. You know, I've got the room. I live alone. Nobody else is here. And if my clothing just lives on my family room couch for an excessive amount of time, who cares? The only person that's going to be inconvenienced by it is me. So I don't really care. So today is a really funny little topic. Let's just get straight into it. So over the weekend, my boyfriend and I, Nick, we were on a big furniture extravaganza searching for, new stuff to put into my home because he's moving in soon. And we recently lost some furniture because we were using it and we thought we could have it, and then his family member took it back, and it's a whole tragedy. But anyways, so we were on this long car ride and we were talking about just like high school, middle school sports, okay? And so hear me out. You're like, oh God, this is going to be a boring podcast. No, I swear, don't leave. Please, I will convince you to stay. So we were talking about, sports, and we both really talked about how like we just have never been able to relate to those people that had like some sort of sport in college or high school or in middle school where they were just like die hard, like hockey forever, or like soccer. I will like commit my life to this. Like, oh my God, all I do is gym and soccer and sleep and eat. Like, we just have never been like that, but we're both very athletic people. We love to like work out, go to the gym. Like, that's where our priorities lie. We never had that draw towards like some sort of organized sport. And so I've been really thinking about it, and like, I would consider myself athletic, but yeah, I never was really drawn to a certain sport. Like, I played them all, growing up, but it just got me like really thinking about how, I've never been an athlete, but I consider myself an athlete even though I work out. I don't know if anybody else can like relate to that. It's like I never was like captain of the volleyball team or whatever. But it's really got me reflecting on my past and just some funny little tales of what the sports scene was like for me growing up, and just really dissecting that whole backstory, behind me, and how did I get here? How did I get to this, living an athletic lifestyle, but not as an athlete? And so, growing up, I played every sport. I was cycling through every seasonal sport on the calendar in middle school. And that's usually when the sports start to develop. Is middle school is when people start getting their passion for the certain sport. But for me, it was more of like a social image thing. It was good for like my brand to play every sport. Also better for attracting the male gaze, because, I didn't want to look like a loser on the sidelines when like, everybody, hot Becky's out there playing soccer, and like I felt like the men would like me more if I played the sports. So I would say that I was like, I do have some competitiveness in my blood. Like I wanted to be out there. I wanted to be like the sporty girls. No way was I sitting in the sidelines letting Savannah in PE run a 6-minute mile and then also be captain of every sports team. Like, the 12-year-old men were eating that shit up. And so I needed to get their gaze. Like, she was winning. She was taking home all the men. And that's, I think, what really sparked my competitiveness is like, okay, well, I have to play every sport and I will fight for that mile time. I was definitely more of like a fluffy middle schooler. So for some reason, every friend I made, though, was in the shrimp category. I don't know why that is. I think I was just... Every single friend I had was literally a shrimp. Like, they all looked like they freshly walked off of a shrimp cocktail party platter at Costco. Like, one of those in the cold cases with the shrimp cocktail sauce. And then there was me, the thick rotisserie chicken coming from the hot section at Costco. Extra dark meat around the bones, but more of like the double pack of rotisserie chicken. Like, I wasn't, by no means was I fat. I had some extra dark meat on me, if you know what I mean. So here it's the dark meat chicken, rotisserie chicken. Whoa, that was a lot of chickens with the shrimp cocktail platters. And, I don't know. For some reason, they were all like that. I digress. So anyways, just imagine a mid-sized rotisserie chicken, preteen, with extra dark meat, just forcibly signing her up to play basically every sport on the calendar. So I was playing volleyball, I was playing basketball, soccer. I was even hip hop dancing, doing like the hip hop dance classes with my friends, my dancer friends. And my mom's like, bro, like, you good? Like, you sure you want to do all these? I just wanted to be in every single activity that everybody was doing. And if you know me, this makes a lot of sense. Like, I've always been a busybody, I will say. I feel like where I get my busybody mannerisms from. Like it started from middle school. And like even the other girls growing up always learned to pick their niche activity, but I was showing up to everything. I mean, jack of all trades, master of none. I wanted to be included in everything, and I felt like I was going to be missing out, but like there were girls that would just do soccer, that would just do volleyball, they would just do dance, and somehow like there's a little rotisserie chicken in the back joining in the lineup doing the pop, lock, and drop it in the dance classes. So anyways, I can't lie, I thought that these sports, participating in them, would make me look like these other shrimp cocktails surrounding me. You know, I think in middle school is when you start to like really see and understand your body. And I just wanted to like, I wanted to be a shrimp cocktail, you know? I'm a German girl though. And what I didn't understand is that these German hips don't lie. You know, I've naturally have been blessed with birthing hips. But at the time, like, you know, we're all shopping at Abercrombie and Hollister, and those skinny little shrimp bodies were just in style. And so, you know, I blame Abercrombie. I do. I blame those Abercrombie models. I would walk in there and be like, oh my God, like Savannah running the 6-minute mile from middle school, she looks like that Abercrombie model in Abercrombie Kids on the big billboard. Like, why do I not look like that? But then it's just funny because I do all these activities hoping to look like the shrimp cocktails. And meanwhile, I'd head home after a quick pop, lock, and drop it session at the Paula Carr Dance Academy, if you know, you know, where I would take a hip hop class with the instructor named Wheezy, who is also the MC at the Suns games, Go Phoenix Suns. And he would always put me in the back of the class when he would film the classes. Looking back at that, I understand maybe dancing wasn't my calling. So then I'd, you know, head home after those classes and with vacuum cleaner like suction, inhale 2 Little Debbie's magic brownies. If you know, you know. While I was watching Pretty Little Liars season 29, confused how A could still be hidden and undiscovered. Like, how is A still so sneaky, you know? So I'm just inhaling these brownies. So I'm like, oh, why do I not look at the shrimps? And then here I am. But anyways, so the drills though, looking back at the drills that we did in these sports, I definitely could keep up, but like these sports, it was like, when we were trained for them in middle school, we'd be running on these soccer fields. We'd be like in the, you know, in the gym doing like, what do you call them? Suicide drills. What was those suicide drills where you go back and forth and touch the lines? And then like we would do it on the soccer field, running around and around and around. I swear it was like inhaling nails and like swallowing them. Like I still have PTSD from soccer practice. Like, you know, when you, at the end of the day, like you can smell, it's warm sun and you can smell like the grass in the air. I don't know how to explain it. I still, whenever I smell that smell, it like gives me trauma thinking back to the soccer days, just the smell of that grass in the afternoon after school, where I just wanted to go home and watch Pretty Little Liars and see like what Spencer Hastings was up to and why Arya was like kissing Ezra. And I just remember my lungs burning from running around that field that honestly wasn't even a full football field, but I was so winded. Like, rotisserie chicken little girlies aren't meant to run around the field like a little hamster in a wheel. We're meant to bask under the heat in the sun and spin on a wheel that, you know, gets us that perfect level of crisp. I really am a rotisserie chicken, you know, that level of crisp that's worth like ripping a piece off of in the parking lot when you get your rotisserie chicken and that skin is, what am I saying? I don't know why I'm so fixated on rotisserie chickens right now. But yeah, I really was just so committed to being a sporty, like sports girl. I tried so hard, but nothing ever clicked for me. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but like I wanted to be that sporty girl that like is drawn to like being really good at like soccer or dance or whatever. And maybe it's because I never really commit myself to one thing. Looking back at that, it's probably why. And then the brownies, probably didn't help either. But one thing, I did everything I could to deny my musical theater calling. So I was a musical theater kid. I did have a bit of a calling in middle school. But actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I actually did deny my calling. Looking back at it, I definitely wanted to be the star of those shows and I did successfully accomplish that a few times, except for goddamn Savannah, who was athlete of the year and also getting the lead roles in all of the musical theater productions. Did anyone have that one girl? This is Savannah. I'm not going to call out her last name because actually some people might know who this is. Savannah literally got everything. Like, was her mom slipping the teachers $100 to get her, like, captain of the team, lead role in the play? She just had the blue eyes, blonde hair, super skinny, was just, like, adorable. She was a child model. It's messed up thinking about it. Like, give the other kids a chance. I don't know. There was always some favoritism going on, Savannah. But going back to my sports involvement, so I really could keep up during the drills. I really tried, but, like, I wouldn't say I really shined in a certain sport. But in soccer, for instance, so playing the actual sport of, volleyball, basketball, soccer wasn't really like my calling. I could never really remember any of the rules or like anything. So to give you an example for soccer, for instance, so picture this. You imagine your little stocky German girl out in the field. And every year I'd try out for soccer, and I'd always get put on defense. And so obviously, defense were right next to the goal. And there was a time where we were playing this school called Rancho Solano. And if you're from Arizona, Rancho Solano, notoriously good at sports back in the day. So we were playing this game against Rancho Solano. And I remember one of our head players, like our lead players that played like, center field or whatever, she was sick, and so she couldn't come to the game last minute. So they looked at the roster, and they're like, all right, Rachel, well, you're our only option. Let's get up there. Just play center. I was waiting for this moment my entire life. I was like, oh my God, they moved me up to play center. Daniel, my 6th grade crush, was watching the game because his sister was on the team. And I was like, oh my God, Daniel's going to see me like score a goal. Like soccer was his thing. Like the boys loved soccer and Daniel was so good at soccer. And I was like, oh my God, Daniel's watching this game. I'm in center. He's going to be so impressed that they moved me up here and I'm going to score a goal on his watch. Like just wait. Just like a little male motivation went a long way for me back in the day. I mean, I guess it doesn't do that anymore. But anyways, so I remember I was playing center. The game starts. I'm kind of just like lingering on the sidelines and I'm like, Rachel, you got to step it up. Like Daniel's watching. So the ball comes to me. Okay. I get it. I just start booking it, running with that ball, just kicking it, moving so fast. I was going so fast. I couldn't even see anybody like trying to chase me. I think I was going that quick. And then I kick, I make it in the goal. And I'm like, hell yes. I save the team. I save this game. I'm center. They're going to play me center all the time. Even Daniel saw it. That was our team's goal. And so I gave the other team a goal. Yes, I hit it into my own team's goal. So I think that's just the perfect way to explain my relationships with organized sports. But I did look like a baddie in those uniforms. I will say, like, I was definitely in it for the uniforms. It just, like, I felt cool. Getting all the gear. Buying all the gear was my favorite, Getting the soccer cleats, the pink soccer cleats, getting, like, the shin pads, like, just having, like, that outfit on point and then, like, wearing the shin pads around your ankles, like, after practice and, like, going to the grocery store with your mom and you're like, yeah, I play soccer. I'm a sporty girl. So after middle school, I started to part with volleyball and soccer and basketball. I was like, let's just throw in the towel. And then I started to play tennis at the end of middle school. And I would play tennis with Sydney Patton, my best friend, one of my besties. And we would do this clinic. We would go to this super intense clinic. I don't know how we found this place, but it was this really intense tennis clinic. that literal like child pro tennis players were training at. Don't know why or how we found this camp. I think her mom found it or something, Sydney's mom. But so they would literally, since Sydney and I weren't, like she wasn't much of a sports girl either. Like her and I were both like, athletic, but we weren't into a certain sport. So they would literally put Sydney and I in the group with the 6-year-olds. I'm not joking. They would put us in the group with the 6-year-olds, and we were probably like 13 when we started playing. And, being my little, I remember our pre-practice regimen. So we both went to the same middle school, and being just the little dark meat rotisserie chicken I am, Sydney and I were both like, we were both the younger siblings of the families. We were always very just like bougie and like felt like we were like 45. We would go home after school and we would make a literal charcuterie board, and we would get these like tiny little round crackers, and we would put brie on top of them, and we would melt the brie, and then we would add a cherry jam on top, and we would have that as our after school snack. Except since Sydney is a little shrimp, she would have like 3 crackers and she'd be like, okay, I'm good. Well, I'm the rotisserie chicken. And so I am just like shoveling those down. So I would just, slam like 5 or 6 of those to the face, and then, scarf so many down that my stomach would ache. And then I would, I actually feel like I was the block of brie. I would turn into the block of brie, and then we would just book it to tennis practice. I don't know how I didn't poop my pants. I mean, that's a miracle. But then it was funny because this tennis camp that Sydney and I went to had the hottest young instructors. They were like these like pro, they were probably in a high school or maybe like early college, just like trying to get some more, probably like training to be some sort of pro tennis player, but they were the instructors. And Sydney and I, we would violently harass them, and we would make them love us, but we'd also like just like bother the F out of them. And they literally didn't know what to do with us because we just like couldn't stop laughing, and we would always make them laugh really hard, and they'd be like, okay, get back to work, because it was very important that we couldn't get them in trouble, because the lead, like the owner of this tennis camp, his name was Jeff Williams, and he was such a hard ass. Like he was the coach that you would send your child to if you wanted them to play pro tennis, genuinely. And so he ran this clinic. I don't know why we were there. This is so funny looking back on. And he had zero tolerance. So like if he ever saw one of the instructors like fumbling or foodling around with us, he would look at them with like death eyes and be like, get them in line. But oh my God. Sorry. I told you the cough's not gone. Oh, we're almost back from sickness. Okay. So, but it was so funny because I just remember like Sydney and I, we would always like hyperfixate on any of like we were such rats. We were like 13, 14. We would hyperfixate on like any of like the word fumbles that our instructors would make, and we would just like roast them the entire time. And they're always just like, oh my God, I can't with these girls. So, but going back to Jeff Williams, so he was like the leader of the clinic, and he'd always be like walking around like watching all the instructors with the different people taking the clinic, like the little children. And he would mostly be like training the actual like pro tennis players that were actually worthy of like, his time. And so he was terrifying, and he had zero tolerance for Sydney and I's antics. And like anytime he caught us giggling, he would literally say, drop and give me a plank for like 2 minutes, because that's how much time you wasted with your giggling. Like, we are not here to mess around. We're here to work. Like we tried to crack his shell so badly. Like we tried to mess around with him, and he would just be like, okay, give me a lap around the tennis court now. Like no. And then anytime someone would like mess up something on the team or like be talking when he was talking, he would make everybody plank together. It was just a lot. And so then Sydney and I, we entered high school, and we kept doing this clinic. We actually started to get like pretty good. And if we actually like focused, we probably could have been really good. But then we entered high school, and we were like, okay, we're going to try out for the tennis team. Like this could be our thing. Like we're going to be sporty girls. Like we're going to have a sport. We're going to be the cute girls on the tennis team. Like we had our cute tennis outfits. We loved the tennis outfits. And meanwhile, we were also playing golf as well. So then we tried to go onto the tennis team. We did we actually made it pretty far in the tryouts for tennis, but then we both ended up not making it. And the coach told us that he couldn't bring either of us onto the tennis team because he saw how close we were and like how we were like the dynamic duo. And there was only one player like left that they could add on to the team, and he didn't want to break us up and like get us into a fight, so they cut both of us and they let somebody else join. It was probably me that was going to get cut, And so sorry, Sydney, I let you lose out on your big tennis moment. Ruined your chances. But then after that, I feel like after tennis, that's when I really threw in the towel for my sports career in high school. And that's honestly, like, I feel like that's when I started, getting a little bit more meat on the bones, a little bit more dark meat. Hitting puberty in high school. I definitely was a late bloomer too. So like hitting puberty in high school and like getting my period in high school, just like, but with no activity. Cause after the sports, I was just like, okay, well, I have nothing else. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I even remember in high school, like my mom would do like those Jenny Craig diets. And so I remember I was like gaining weight and I was like, why am I gaining weight? Meanwhile, like shoveling the magic brownies. And I was like, I begged my mom to do one of those Jenny Craig diets. I was like, please, Mom, like, let me do one like you. And she's like, no. And then eventually she let me. But then I would just eat the desserts out of the meals, like for every meal. And I would barely even eat any of the Jenny Craig meals. And I think I ended up actually like gaining weight. But then flash forward to college. So this is when I really found, like, I would say, my cup of tea for working out. This is when I found group fitness classes, organized group fitness classes. Sounds like organized crime. Honestly, that's what it was though. There was definitely some organized crime happening. So like my friend Matt, when I went to college, I went to college with another friend from Arizona. His name is Matt and he taught spin classes in Arizona at this place called Madison. And so when we moved to California and we both went to Chapman in Orange County, he immediately like wanted to become another instructor in Orange County. So he's the one that really got me into like going into these fitness classes because I would come to all of his classes. Sometimes I'd even like sneak into his spin classes. But like that was when I found my first kind of groove. Like spin classes were my life. Like it was a drug. I would go to all of his classes. He single-handedly got me back into working out. But we would go to like multiple spin classes a day. This is when my cardio addiction started to kick in. But this is like, let's talk about like those spin studios. So like this was when was it? Like 2016, 2017. That was like the peak of like spin studios. So SoulCycle kind of started it all. And then you had all these like copycat studios opening up. And like, so at the time, there was spin, you could either go to spin classes, you could go to gyms, you could go to Pilates. Pilates wasn't really a thing. It was more expensive and like not as mainstream, but you could go to yoga, like a core power specifically. Or you could go to like hot yoga, or you could go to like the HIIT classes, like Orange Theory. So spin classes were all the rage. And, that was the first one that I started to like actually going consistently to. And all of them, each of those types of studios all had their own following, but I swear that the spin studios, like something was wrong with those places. Like it was like they were doing like, there was like chemtrails in the studio. Like they were doing like cloud seeding in there, spraying some sort of chemical mist into the air that like put us all under this spell that we were like obsessed and we had to keep coming back. And it was absolutely crazy because my friend Matt, he became an instructor at this one like little flimsy little studio in Orange County. And of course, like all of these spin studios that opened up, that they wanted to be like SoulCycle, but they were all owned by like these moms that had taken like 10 spin classes and they're like bored housewives and they're like, oh, I could do this. Like this is, easy, whatever. And so there was this one spin studio that Matt started teaching at, and it was just like so funny. Like they had like the crazy lights in there. It was all of these moms that would go, and Matt and I would usually go to the spin classes at like 9 a.m. and he would teach those because we were in college. So we didn't have like, our classes were all over the place. And so, but the owner of that studio, so she was like this divorced housewife, and she was definitely not very happy with her life, but she like loved her spin studio. And she also taught a bunch of classes, and she was awful. She was so awful. She like could not ride to the beat. And that was a whole thing. Like you had to be on beat. And oh my God. And so she was obsessed with Matt. And she like, because Matt was just like this sweet, like happy man. Like, you never find like a cute young boy that like wants to be a spin instructor. And everybody just loved Matt. So she gave him like the prime times. Like all of this instructors would like book his class and like take all of the bikes in there ahead of like any of the members, which was like really annoying. And they would like pre-book them, and his class would be sold out. All the moms that would come to his classes would like buy him dinner, lunch, send him gifts, like all this stuff. And then that spin instructor started to actually like develop a really like deep love and fixation on Matt, and she would like try and like kiss him. It was very strange. And then she also had a drinking problem. I feel like these spin studios just kind of cultivate like substance abuse issues. I don't know what it is, but like she would like force him to like take shots before he taught his class in college. I don't know if she like wanted to be cool, like I'm a young hip mom, like whatever. And she would always be drunk at the studio. She'd always have, it was like a bar in there. And eventually I actually started teaching at that spin studio, and she would like, before my first class, she made me take a shot, and I was like, I don't really want to drink, like I'm gonna like yak up there. And she's like, take a shot. And then she would like hook up with all of the people that like went to the studio. It was just so messy. Like something about the spin studios were just, they were messy. And then there was one couple that like abducted Matt one night. They like took him out on the town, and they all got so drunk, and they like made him sleep at their house. I don't know what they wanted him to do. And then and it was just like such a weird, it was a weird place. It was a weird place. But yeah, there was just like so many like love triangles going on. But then eventually like Matt started moving to a different spin studio, so I stopped going there. And eventually I kind of phased out of that spin studio because it just got like really toxic. And I don't know what it is about spin studios these days, but they just breed toxicity. Like everybody that goes there is just like a little bit too committed, and like they're fighting over like who's going to be in the front row. What? That's my bike. Like, why would you sit there? You don't take my bike. Like, God, calm down. This is supposed to be a workout. But the thing is, I got all entangled in it, and I got sucked into that. And I genuinely would be like, why are you on my bike? Like, oh my God, it was crazy. It was crazy times. So then, yeah, that was in college. I got really into spin, and I kept doing it after college. And then when I moved back to Arizona, I joined another spin studio because they were, some time had passed, and I thought that whole like toxic chapter had ended, and I still didn't quite like feel like spin was as toxic as I thought as it really is, or just spin studios in general. And I joined another spin studio back in Arizona when I was like in my, it was after college. I was like 24 or 22. Well, no, how old was I? I was probably like 23, 24. Yeah. And then the toxic tangle came back. Just same thing. Why is it that they get so culty? What is it? What is in the air at these spin studios? I literally used to go to the spin studio, and I remember like everybody is just, there's always like one instructor that like gets like major special treatment, and that everybody just like praises. And at this studio that I was going to, that instructor at the time, that was the owner. This one I'm talking about, like, when was I going there? In like 2020, 2021, I was going to the spin studio, and the owner of it was just like, everybody worshipped her. I worshipped her. But then it got to the point where like she felt like she was so famous because everybody was so obsessed with her that like she started to get like really mean to people, and including me, even though I was like a devoted member and I never did anything to like wrong her. And like it generally got to a point where like we'd be in like a group setting, like talking, and like I would say something and she would ignore me, and then she'd step in front of me to like exclude me from like the cool kids circle so I wouldn't be included in the conversation. And I was like, I just want her to love me. Like, why doesn't she love me? And like this whole thing, I started getting way into the spin classes. I was taking 3 spin classes a day at the spin studio. Like, no, brother, no, ooh. And then I got to the point where I was talking to my friend's mom, and I was telling her, I'm like, I just don't know why like this girl doesn't like me. Like, I feel like I just support all of her classes, like whatever. And she goes, why are you like paying to get bullied at this studio? Like, it's supposed to be a workout and it's supposed to be fun. And I was like, wow, you're so right. So then I really thought about that. And then my final straw was when there was this video of Jake and I, because Jake and I used to go to this spin studio together, my bestie Jake. There was this video of Jake and I that the studio took on, and they posted on TikTok. And it's like of Jake and I spinning, and like Jake's like rapping like Nicki Minaj, and I'm like yeah, Jake, like I'm like hyping him up. And it literally got like 1 million likes on TikTok. It blew up. And that TikTok literally put this studio on the map. Okay. And I'm clearly a main character in this video. Okay. It's me and Jake, but Jake is definitely like the main character, but I'm a supporting actress. Like it's me and Jake in this video spinning in class. And so after that TikTok goes viral, this owner of the spin studio is walking around and she's just like literally spreading lies. She's like, well, not spreading lies. She's pretending as if I wasn't in the video. And she's like, but blatantly trying to like say it to my face to know that I'm like worth nothing in that video. She's like in front of a whole group of people in class. She's like, oh my God, Jake's in class today. The star of that TikTok, the only person in that video that actually made us go viral. Wow. Like this is so crazy. Jake, we love you. Like you got us famous on TikTok. Wow. Your video, Jake, while I'm standing right there. And I'm like, what about me? Like I was in the video. Like it was just weird. She like hated me for some reason. And maybe she hated me because I was so happy and confident and I was always like cheering and being a good time in class. And like, I literally started like certain moves that they do today, swear on my life. Like they still do these different moves in class that I literally started. Jake and I did. So then eventually I was like, okay, that's my final straw. Like this is too catty for me. I need to go. And so then I left. Bye spin. And then that's when I got into more of like the HIT classes. Like I went to this one place and it was good. You know, I just felt like I was like breaking my back. I don't know if anybody feels this way, but like it's similar to like a studio like Orange Theory. It's called Body in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it's kind of like Orange Theory. And like I would go to those all the time, but then I started to like really hurt myself. Like my shoulder would start hurting, my back would start hurting. And I'm only like mid-20s, 25 years old. And I'm like, this can't be right. So then that's when I really stepped away from Body and like those HIT classes. I loved like the vibes there. It was still a little bit culty, but not as culty as spin. And then that's when I just started getting more into like lifting weight and actually doing Legree. And that's how I found Body Politic, which is the studio I work at and teach Versa Climber classes at, which is not culty at all, by the way. But then I started doing more Legree and I started absolutely like loving it. And I think there's just like a different culture that happens in these like Legree / like Pilates studios that you can go to. I don't feel like culty energy cultivates there. It's not like toxic ever. And maybe I just feel blessed. It's like a whole thing about Body Politic, but like, I just feel like there's just such a different vibe going on versus like the cardio places that just like spin classes. Something about those places just breeds toxic people and energy. And I need to stay away. But yeah, so that's pretty much the moral of the story. The moral of the story is that I'm an athlete, but not like of an actual sport. But yeah, so that's my little fitness tale. I don't know. I just wanted to come on here and share that. I thought it was kind of like a funny thing to look back on. And moral of the story is if you belong to a spin studio, you are in a cult and you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I happy? Am I happy? And how do I get out? Because sometimes it's hard. Like when I left the spin studio, people were like, are you okay? Are you coming back? Are you coming back, sister? We miss you. And I'm like, go away. No, I'm not coming back. Leave me alone. So if you are a victim of a spin cult, please let me know. I'll help you get out. I'll help you get out. It's not going to be easy, but you can do it. You might be under a spell and you might be brainwashed, but I promise you can leave. You'll be so much happier. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. That's all I wanted to share today. Quick and dirty. Thank you so much for tuning into the Rat Diaries podcast. I love you all. I hope you have a fabulous week, and I will see you next time. Bye.